Good evening. What is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. And today we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 4, Episode 6. And the title of the episode is The Price of Fame. And today I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie, and I want to say a very happy belated birthday to Miss Dana Abercrombie today. So
Yes.
Dana, how are you, and how was your birthday?
Thank you. I didn't do anything. I tend to not celebrate it because I'm old and I don't like that. So yay. But I'm excited to be here for this show because it's been 4 seasons and 6 episodes, but I finally got my jukebox. I got my little psychopath, and she's here, and she's happy, and I'm happy for her, and this made me just happy together.
Oh yeah, what better birthday gift could there be than Psycho Jukebox? Like that's an amazing gift right there.
I mean, you could have just shot all the boys. That would have been an even more amazing gift. But this right here was like, it was a surprise. I cried. This is yay.
Oh yeah. I have a lot to say on that. But yeah, it was. I love seeing the development of that character right now. So that's great to see. But yeah, interesting episode. Like I actually really liked this episode. There's a lot to say, and we are gonna unpack it in our takeaways. But yeah, before that, just big shout outs to all the people who continue to leave comments and support the show. Please make sure you're all liking the video and subscribe to the channel and leave your comments and theories and everything like that, all that good stuff, because that helps us to keep going, keep pushing forward with these recaps. We put a lot of time into this, a lot of time and dedication. So, the support means a lot to us because it really keeps us going. So thank you to everyone who does continue to support the Powercast. But with that being said, let's jump right into our takeaways for this episode. And this week it is Richard's turn to go first. So Richard, when you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, so this episode of Raising Kanan, I thought it was, once again, another excellent episode. Very interesting, as Gary said. A lot of things took place. And let me start off by saying, before I get to the takeaways, I like that this episode kept me on the edge of my seat because I was waiting to get some answers about what happened with Famous. And they did a very good job of carrying the tension over, making you wonder when Kanan and Jukebox were going to make their move. Then when they made their move, there's a revelation that lets you know this is a lot deeper than it just being who you thought it was. So I look forward to what we're going to talk about when we get to that discussion. But let me get into my 3 takeaways for this episode. So first and foremost, shout outs to Miss Dana Abercrombie because she actually interviewed B-Rilla. That interview is currently on the website. And I do want to get to that first because my first takeaway is about Lou and B-Rilla in this episode because there's some tension brewing in that relationship. There's a lot of things happening. So let's go with Lou first. First and foremost, he obviously wants payback for what happened to Famous. And in this episode, they did a very good job of showing how he was dealing and struggling with the thought of going back to drinking, relapsing. He went to the AA meeting, was just talking about how he felt, but he was again struggling and thinking that he thought the only salvation he can get would be if he went and found Famous's killer and took him out. And obviously he didn't go in that direction, which is great. But, he obviously was dealing with that this episode. Also, he had a very interesting conversation with his mom, Joyce, who she told him what she asked Marvin to do. Then she had the nerve to ask him to basically do what Marvin couldn't do as far as taking her out. Now, I will say this. There was a lot of people who left comments last week, and I believe it was you two as well that said, well, now it looks like Raquel is going to be the one to do it. And I think that is going to happen because they're taking their time to get to that. Raquel has not seen her mom since it was revealed that she has cancer. They had their little conversation in a previous episode, and then she hasn't gone to the hospital when she went when they sent her to the hospital. So that feels as though that's the direction that they're heading in. We'll see if that's what happens. But to stay on topic here with Lou in this episode, obviously because of Famous, the nature of what happened to Famous, the type of music that Famous was making, he does get into it with B-Rilla because B-Rilla is, by the way, B-Rilla, that was an excellent song he was rapping over. Again, very good lyricist as far as his skill set. But he's in this whole thing, he's also talking about gangster stuff. And Lou was trying to tell him you should use metaphors, try to make it sound a little bit different. This is stuff like what Nas would do with his music. So that's kind of like what he's telling him to think a little bit more about what you're saying. And obviously B-Rilla didn't like that. So him and Lou got into it. Lou stepped out. And then you find out later in this episode, well, obviously we already knew that B-Rilla has a family to look after. He does have a daughter. The whole reason he's been doing all of this is because he was told that he was going to get his single out there. That hasn't happened yet. I'm going to get to that in a second. But the thing is that B-Rilla does make a decision to meet up with one of his boys, and he basically tells him, yeah, there's this job that we need to do. We need to go ahead and we need to rob this record exec because he's very greedy. The guy asked him, does this guy have security? He says, no, this guy is pretty cheap, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't have security. But what you are seeing now is B-Rilla is going to make a very bad decision as far as trying to get his money. It also raises the question of, we saw a couple of episodes ago where he had a conversation with this record exec in their office. And this provides more context because I was wondering when they had that conversation, why they spent so much time on that scene. And you got your answer in this episode because now maybe B-Rilla didn't get all the money that he was supposed to get. And now he is taking matters into his own hand and he's going to get the rest of his money because again, the single is not out there yet. So basically they do have this plan set up where they are going to try to rob this guy. By the way, if you notice, if you are watching the video, my name today is B-Rilla's getaway driver. So if it is not successful, it won't be my fault. Obviously, I was in the episode, but I got cut out of the episode because, Power, they have to keep the show within an hour length. This is why you didn't see me on there, ladies and gentlemen. But this is what happens. All right. So we'll see where they're going with that next week. Very interesting. But the last point that I want to mention about Lou in this episode is that now he does eventually he does talk with Jess helping her through this entire process. And of course, they decide to share an intimate night together. Now, very interesting because in the previous episode, when Lou hooked up with Amani, he basically told her that it was over. And yes, it was over. Okay, it was over between him and Jess. But Amani, obviously, and this is what I said before, you don't mix business with pleasure because she took it personal. She saw Jess' necklace there. And this is why I say this is a problem now because she is the one that was going to bring in the other rapper, the white boy rapper that they mentioned in this episode that Lou was supposed to meet up with. Now we'll see if that happens next week because I don't know if that's going to happen. But the thing is that it complicates their relationship, which means that it's going to be an issue getting B-Rilla single out even more. So I do expect this entire situation to intensify further. And I do want to see which direction they're going to take it. But I thought it was also very interesting how at the end of this episode, Jess does tell Lou that she's going to basically move her mom back to LA with her. And she made the offer and said, you can come too. And Lou said, nah, this is where I belong. So I made the comment last week, I don't know if Lou's going to have a happy ending because I felt like this was his opportunity to leave. And he decided not to. So I do want to see which direction they're going to go in now. I'm not saying that something bad is going to happen to him for certain, but I kind of feel like I don't know if that was a good decision to stay either. So I do want to see where they're going with that. But overall, a lot of things happening with that relationship between Lou and B-Rilla. So we need to get locked in and see where they take it because they can go in a lot of different directions with that storytelling. So I do look forward to that. My second takeaway of this episode, I want to talk briefly about Unique, the favorite character that a lot of people love on this show, Joey Badass, So I like how, and this is what I will say. I know Gary and I have said that we thought they were moving a little bit too slow for Unique to reveal himself to Raquel, but you understand why that is, because they took time to build up him throughout this entire season. You know how he came back with a vengeance, but then he had to make certain moves to get himself in a position to now go and get his top spot back. And essentially what you saw in this episode is that he does meet up again with the Italian guy. I believe that guy's name is Mr. Russo. That guy, he tells him that he needs money and muscle. And this is when Mr. Russo tells him about this connect that he has in Trenton, New Jersey. So he meets up with that connect, and now he has the backing and he has the manpower. Obviously, we saw in the previous episode, he met up with Quan. This is why he now has a little bit more leverage. But I will say this, we still did not see Lamar Jackson on this show. So I'm assuming that this guy, Lamar Jackson, is a part of the crew that he's now going to be working with or take underneath him. So I look forward to seeing Lamar Jackson next week. And like I said, as Dana has also said, I hope that this guy can act. Obviously, he is a good football player, but is he a good actor? We will find out sooner or later. And of course, I will say I do like how Unique got his little makeover in this episode. This is the same Unique that we saw before, where he goes to the shop, he gets his little haircut, all this stuff. He gets lined up. And then, of course, I did laugh because after I saw this episode, I sent a text to Gary, and Gary was laughing because the way that they end the episode with Unique is inside Raquel's apartment eating ice cream. This butter pecan ain't bad. That's pretty hilarious, right? That was hilarious because it's like, and of course, we as viewers knew that Unique was alive this whole time, but Raquel's look on her face, that was priceless. So there are so many questions I have about where they're going with this, because you saw in this episode, Raquel closed the deal with the supplier for heroin. And it makes you wonder now what's going to happen in the next episode, because obviously Unique has control. He has the corners now. And I do think you're going to start to see other stuff happen in the next episode that's going to make things a little bit tougher for Raquel. Obviously, they dealt with the fallout of there only being the brother David, because his brother Terry got taken out in the previous episode. And Marvin still pushing hard with David. And now Marvin has to watch David. And I think that's going to be an issue for Marvin moving forward. We'll have to see where they go with that. But overall, yeah, I like what they did with Unique in this episode. And I like what they did with B-Rilla and Lou. And my final takeaway for this episode, again, this goes back to what Dana mentioned at the very start of this show, Jukebox and Kanan. Haley has done a phenomenal job playing Jukebox. And it's just very interesting when you go back to season 1, you see when you were introduced to Laverne, how she had all these passions and ambitions, and then you see the certain things that happened throughout all the seasons that made her go in this direction. When I saw her in this scene where her and Kanan had, they had the Freddie's crew held up outside the basketball court, I was like, this is the Jukebox from the OG Power. The way she was acting as the character, just so determined, and said, hey, well, I don't know who took you out, but we could just take out all of them anyway. That's the type of character that I remember from Power OG. So she did a phenomenal job capturing that. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, they did a very good job keeping you on the edge of your seat, because you really thought that her and Kanan were going to do something in this episode. So I do want to see where they're going with that. As for Kanan, Kanan is just thinking about he wants to get payback on Famous. And obviously, he does talk with OC and tells him and the crew, give me information and I'll pay you guys. Now, obviously, we saw that OC is spying on Kanan. And again, I will make this comment. I know Dana was asking questions about who is this OC character. When they had the scene where OC is in the car, I had to admit, I did laugh, because this guy is pretty small, and I saw him in that car following Kanan, and I thought that was interesting. But this character is up to no good, and I do want to see what happens when Kanan finds out. Obviously, he got to take him out, so I do want to see which direction they're going with that. But I also found it interesting how that Raquel is concerned about Kanan, and she does talk to Crystal in this episode and tells her to watch out for Kanan. And you see how Crystal is obviously she is in love with Kanan. She is concerned about his well-being, which makes me think something is going to happen to her as well at some point, because there is going to be consequences for all the stuff that's happening right now. And I do want to see which direction they take it in, unfortunately. But overall, what I thought was so interesting about that final scene is, again, when Crystal and when Kanan and Jukebox confront the gang, and the gang pretty much says that there was a crooked cop that was behind this, all this other stuff. You find out that Famous was tortured, so on and so forth. That tells me that they have a bigger plan for this reveal, a much bigger plan for this reveal. And the one last thing I do want to mention with Jukebox, very interesting how she did steal Marvin's gun in this episode, did target practice, and then she came back and had that was a very good scene between her and Marvin. Because Marvin, obviously, and this goes back to Dana's phenomenal interview with London Brown, where he said that Marvin is going to start to see him and his daughter they have similarities. Even though he doesn't want her to basically do the same stuff that he's doing, it's going to be hard to deny that they do have that stuff in common. So very interesting, though, how he, again, she took that weapon again when they went to threaten that group of kids, those guys. So it makes me wonder what the end game is going to be for that weapon. I know we've had theories that Marvin could end up getting arrested at the end of the season because that weapon is tied to a lot of people getting killed, people that he's taken out in the past, so on and so forth. So that is something to pay attention to. But also it makes you wonder, because they did not reveal in this episode who actually took out Famous. And because, Jukebox is so adamant to take out the killer, it makes you wonder, yes, did Marvin do this? Is Marvin one of the people that you have to suspect as taking out Famous? The way they play around with that is very interesting, but I do feel that there is going to be a major twist coming with that storyline with Famous. So we got to stay tuned and see which direction that they head as far as that's concerned. But overall, fantastic episode of Raising Kanan. Excellent writing, performances were on point, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Yeah, excellent takeaways. And I do agree that Haley is doing a great job. Like, she's killing it as Jukebox right now. Both her and Makai Curtis, I feel like they really like studied the characters that they're playing, because they're starting to like look just like them. Like, they look and act just like, adult Kanan and adult Jukebox. So yeah, they're doing a great job with that, for sure. And I do hope that when this season comes out on Blu-ray or whatever it is, that we get some deleted scenes and we get to see you as B-Rilla's driver, because we definitely need to see you in the show.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, great job with the takeaways as usual. And yeah, so it's my turn to go second this week. So I'm going to jump right into it. A lot of my takeaways are actually kind of similar to some of the things Richard said. But yeah, so let me begin with Raquel. So Raquel, she's in like a very tough position right now, because like she can't really make any bold or violent moves, because when she met with the Connect with Stefano, he told her like, it's going to take me about 2 weeks to set up and everything. But we know that this guy is already very skeptical of things, and he doesn't want to see any wars or violence going on. So with Unique popping back up now, that's going to present a big problem. Now, that last scene where he was eating the pecan ice cream and stuff, like that was a very funny scene. I felt like I told Rich this when we spoke about it, but that was done for dramatic effect. Like him just popping up in her house like that and stuff like that was, it was a nice little cliffhanger to end off the episode, because we don't really see Raquel like that, like with that kind of expression where she's shocked, kind of thing. Like, so it's kind of a big shock for her, to get that reaction out of her and stuff like that. Is kind of, it's very dramatic and theatrical kind of thing. But this is how she carries this is going to be important, because she can't go to war now with this new connect, because it will be too much of a risky move. So I'm thinking maybe her and Unique actually kind of have to figure things out. Like, they have to talk things over. They have to, go over the specifics of, like, why he's mad at her, what happened before between them. Like, they have to iron this out, and maybe they'll coexist for a time. But even if they coexist, I think they're going to be secretly trying to take over each other. Well, we know that that's Unique's plan already, but I think Raquel is going to be doing the same. So what I think we're going to see is, them playing chess. They're going to continue to play chess with each other. They're going to coexist in Queens for a time, because we see that Unique is building up his situation and he has his ties to the mob, and we see Raquel on the other side. And yeah, it's like there's a little civil war going on with the mob as well, because I think Mike told Unique that he needs to weaken Stefano so that he can turn his people against him and stuff like that. So that little civil war in the mob is going to be a factor in what plays out with Unique and Raquel, I feel. And one small thing that happened in this episode as well that might have gone over people's heads, or people didn't even remember that it happened, is Early Tyler had a conversation with Marvin, and Early Tyler has a problem, with someone from the mob not paying up. Like, they've got this outstanding debt, and they keep telling him, look, I'm not paying, I'm a made man, or whatever. So this is an issue with a mob guy that Early Tyler has, and he went to Marvin, and Marvin was like, kind of, he wasn't phased by it. He was very nonchalant. Like, he was just like, whatever, it's your problem, deal with it. Now, if Early Tyler goes to Unique now kind of has a connection with the mob, so he can maybe smooth things out for Early Tyler, but that is going to come at a cost. Early Tyler is going to owe him something now, so yeah, it might get interesting. But yeah, I think we're going to see a real chess game play out now that Unique has kind of come back and he's outed himself. I think it's all chess from here on to see who's going to claim that top spot in Queens. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I think there's 4 episodes left, so I think they could do some cool stuff with that. So we'll wait and see what happens by the end of the season. Second takeaway, and this is kind of mirroring everything we kind of said already about Jukebox, but it's just really cool to see, Jukebox and Kanan's transformation into their adult personalities and stuff. Like, because Juke, she's even like looking like the adult Jukebox, and like her expressions and stuff in her face and everything like that. Like, and just seeing her like, she's kind of realizing this new side of herself when she grabs the gun and goes to target practice and realizes like how good it makes her feel and stuff like that. And then the conversation she had with Marvin, which is pretty deep. I'm going to save that for my third takeaway actually, but there was some stuff in there that was said that was like very powerful. But going back to Kanan and Jukebox, Jukebox is definitely like the stone cold killer of those two. Now we know that Kanan has a mean streak. He's done some very cold things in the original Power, like he killed the old lady for the apartment and stuff like that. He definitely has a mean streak to him, but we know that from the original Power, he was so scared of Jukebox that he had to kill her. Like he knew that she would kill Tariq, and now Kanan had had an attachment to Tariq. Like he had some sort of, emotional attachment to him. So he didn't want to let that happen. And he had to take out Jukebox because he knew that, she wouldn't stop. So and I think we see a version of that in this where Jukebox is kind of enjoying herself a little too much on the ball court, when she's letting off shots and stuff. And, she kind of like, it's like a, what do you call it? It's like something else took over, like a demon took over her, like she was possessed, basically. Like she became a new person. And I think Kanan caught that. He saw that and he was like, wow, like this isn't a Jukebox that I recognize. And even in the car before they go to the ball court, he's like, was this the military that made you like this and stuff? So Kanan himself is realizing this like transformation within Jukebox, and he's realizing that, wow, she's really cold. Like, I'm cold, but she's on a whole nother level, so just seeing that little thing, because Kanan kind of had to be the one to pull her away and be like, look, the cops are coming. Like, we have to get out of here. Because she was having a ball, basically, like interrogating these kids and letting off shots and stuff like that. So, just those little details like that was really cool to see. And it was almost like a callback in a way to, original Power, like, and just the way that Kanan interacted with Jukebox in that show, so yeah, I'm loving that. I'm loving the development of those characters, and I feel like now that these two are kind of going on drills together, I think it's going to be a problem for everyone around them now. So, with that being said, let me get to my third takeaway. So, this famous thing is a big mystery, as we know. This episode was kind of about finding out, who actually did the deed and killed Famous, and and as we know, when from the ball court scene, there's more to the story than just Freddie's gang getting their get back on Famous. Now, my theory, because one of the things they said was it was something to do with some crooked cop, right? So my theory, now there's two ways this could be, this theory. There's two variations of this theory, but my theory is that Raquel had Howard kill Famous. Like she made Howard kill Famous, and then because she killed Howard, it kind of clears her. Like there's no tie back to her because then she killed Howard. So, he was a crooked cop, right? So this is something that could have been done prior to, because there had to be more of a reason why they brought us back in the first episode, like, and just thinking about some of the things we saw, like Raquel and Howard giving each other that look at the precinct, and then you had the scene where Kanan went to Howard and he was like, "Oh, can you help me with my assignment? I have to talk about my family or whatever." And Howard was very adamant on like there can be no ties to you and me. Like that we can't have any ties to each other. We have to be careful. So now I don't remember exactly how things played out with Famous in the last season because I need to go back and watch. But I know that there was like a plot thread of didn't somebody find out that Howard was Kanan's dad or something? And I'm not sure what exactly was said in that interrogation with Famous either, but I know that there was an interrogation and people were aware of that. So, with all of that going on, now the other variation of this is that maybe there's another crooked cop that we don't know about, or we haven't met yet, and maybe Andre actually had ties to this crooked cop, like, and he was like, because he handled a lot of like stuff for Raquel and helped her kind of with these legal issues. So that could be another variation, like maybe it's a character we haven't met yet. But I think that it is going to tie back to Raquel. And the reason I say that is because I had to watch this episode twice. And I know that there's a lot of theories of, Marvin's probably the one, and it could be both Raquel and Marvin. It could be something they plan together. But when I'm watching the scene with Marvin and Jukebox, he says a lot of things that are kind of questionable. Um, like he says, let me see the quote. So, he tells Jukebox, if it was my person, if it was my friend who got hit, I would paint the town red. But if you're doing what I do, then you're doing things wrong. He says something to that effect, right? And he could be, maybe deceiving her and stuff, but I don't I don't really see Marvin as like a calculating person who, who deceives people. Like he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve. He reacts in the moment kind of thing. Like he's not like he's not like a thinker like Raquel. Like he's not as much of a chess player as Raquel is. So I don't know if he would, be able to hide it so well. If he was hiding something in that moment when he was telling her, I would paint the town red. I think that that was more of a genuine father response that he was giving. Like I don't want to see my daughter, going out shooting people and killing people and stuff like that, like the stuff that I do. I think it was more of a genuine kind of response. Now, if I'm going back to Raquel's scenes in this episode, at the top of the episode, we see her at the bar, and when they're having the little memorial for Famous, and she's kind of she's doing her rounds and talking to everyone. She gives her condolences to Jessica and everything, and the mother at one point, I believe, and also to Kanan. And throughout this episode, she's also trying to discourage Kanan from acting on this, like through third party means, mind you. Like she doesn't directly do this, but she tells Crystal, she tells who else? She tells Jukebox, like look out for your cousin, make sure he doesn't do nothing. I know he's hurting. And if you think back to a couple seasons ago, I think, or the first season maybe, she had D-Wiz killed, and Raquel spoke directly to D-Wiz's mother. And she, like, we know that she's capable of, like, talking to these people and deceiving them right to their face, even though she's the one that made the call to kill D-Wiz, and she's there talking to the mother of D-Wiz like it's nothing. So she has that in her. So that's why I think this is going to lead back to her. And just the fact that Kanan and Jukebox are so passionate about getting revenge for Famous, I think that it's going to cause a rift in the family, once the truth really comes out. Now, like I said, Marvin could or could not be involved. Like he might or might not be involved. I don't know. But his kind of reactions seemed a little sincere in this episode, although it was a bit silly to like leave the gun back in the couch again, just on the other side. Like like if you really wanted to keep the gun from Jukebox, like how about you hide it somewhere else or take it with you or something? Like you just left it on the other side. Oh, she's not going to find this on the other side. So that was a bit silly, but but yeah, um I think it is going to lead back to Raquel at some point, because there has to be something between Kanan and Raquel. We see that their relationship is already fractured, and I don't see it getting any better. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Um, and if you throw in the whole Joyce thing, if Richard is right and it's actually Raquel who kills Joyce, and they find out, maybe, then that might add to it as well. So that's my thoughts on that. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I'm willing to admit that I could be totally off, but it's just me kind of analyzing. Maybe I'm over analyzing, but just me rewatching the episode and taking everything in and thinking back to what's happened previously, from what I can remember, I feel like it's gonna tie back to Raquel for sure. Famous's death. So that's my 2 cents. And I'm gonna hand it over to Dana now. So Dana, when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways.
Okay, well, this was a very interesting episode that I really truly enjoyed, and of course, it was all because we're finally going. We're getting the OG characters and these little newbies, and these are some really great actors, by the way. So it made it really exciting for that. One of my biggest, obviously, one of the big takeaways has to do with Jukebox. And Jukebox, she is coming into her own and realizing that this is that one glimpse of excitement that she gets from her life was running around with a gun and shooting people or things. She took the gun first time in order to have a little shootout, the target practice basically. And you saw the enjoyment that she had from that. It would have been really interesting to see her have that kind of same joy when it came to when she was in the army, because I think other than just the target practice, the shooting part, she wasn't really a big fan of. But if they could have shown a little bit more of the things that she was a fan of, I would have just appreciated that. So I like that, and then the conversation that Marvin had with Jukebox, where he genuinely looked terrified of his daughter. He was scared, and he was expressing that this is not the life that he wants for her. And her response was very interesting because it was like, "Oh, you're part of me. I'm part of you." So this is something that is genetically encoded in her, and also the environment that she is around. And it's really interesting to see how you try. Jukebox has been someone that has been trying to protect, I think, from all sides, but because it's still so around her, she still has an interest in it. Or you could make the argument that this was how she was always born. She was just ready for an opportunity for that to take over. So it's really interesting, and I don't really think that there is a right or wrong answer, or even one answer. It could be both things all at once. So to see her, get really adamant when it came to, tracking down who the people were that killed Famous, you kind of saw that interesting flip where this, to me, it reminded me of the same kind of look that Kanan, adult Kanan, had when he was his with Jukebox, the older one. He was terrified of her, and you kind of see a little bit of that, when they're in the car and when she's, sitting around there threatening the kids, and he's like, "I would listen to her if I was you." And it's not more than just like, "We're gonna show you up." It was really like, yeah, you really should just listen to everything that she says because I can't control the situation right now. And when when he was telling her, we gotta go because of the cops, and you saw that complete flip when she started threatening the kid. I said, "Oh, this kind of makes sense now." I feel as to why she ended up being a police officer. If it was the police that killed Famous, wouldn't you yourself want to be a police officer to, one, not only protect the kids, but to kind of weed out the other police officers who are manipulating and using these kids as well? Now, granted, she loses her way because she also kills kids, but she's trying to teach them the right and the wrong way of, going about this life of illegal activities. So it's really interesting. And how she uses, you could argue the system is the one that really screws people up. And so by her protecting the kids, going, she's a dealt her. Remember when they doing that robbery and she tells the other officers, "Oh yeah, it was these white kids," to completely throw off the kind of scent that it was these black kids. In a way, I'm wondering if she's kind of like trying to balance those scales of like, oh, they always come after the black kids, they always disenfranchise them, and not after people who are doing the crime, even though it was in this case it was actually the black kids. So it really made me wonder that. But then I had another thought that nobody seems to brought up. It could also be mom and pops, so snaps and pops. Because remember, they was like, "We declare war. what better way is to operate in the shadows where nobody knows what you're doing, hence unique. Nobody knows what you're doing, and you can't kill Kanan because he's directly connected to Raquel, but you can still get Kanan by killing Famous. Everyone knows that they grew up together. They knew each other since kindergarten. The families are intertwined. So if you have your ear to the streets, you know that is his friend. And you can easily put together maybe the whole Freddy situation of it all. But the point is, what better way to get back at someone is to kill Famous? And I also think that it could maybe be Snaps and Pops. And that creates an even bigger issue later down. But my thing is that I really wondered while watching this, is Famous Jukebox, is it right for Jukebox to avenge Famous when technically it was Kanan's best friend? Like, I understand that you're hurt. I understand that you want, someone to pay for it. But that kill is not your kill. That's Kanan's kill. That's Kanan's friends. Yeah, we were all friends, but that is his friend. That's his number one homie right there. So I really don't feel that this is Jukebox kill. She could be like the security guard and was holding up everybody and shooting off at the side of people's ears and threatening them. That works out perfectly fine. But I don't feel that is actually his kill. So we have that going on. And then I kind of wonder another thing. I don't want to bring up the gun with Marvin. I was like, oh, he's stupid. Why would you hide at the exact same spot? He wasn't stupid. That actually was genius. He was testing Jukebox. If I leave at the exact same spot where it is she gonna take that gun again? She failed that test. Now I'm starting to wonder, did she get kicked out of the home? Which is why we end up with Kanan, Unique, Crystal, and Jukebox in that picture. Because he kicks her out. I don't want this life for you. I see the way that you're going. You took the gun again. You have to leave my home. So I'm starting to wonder if that was what really happens. And I'm starting also to feel this whole thing, he wasn't stupid. Marvin knew because she kept saying, I'm you, you're me. He knew exactly what Jukebox was going to do. So that's why he hit the gun in the exact same spot. That whole thing was a test. So yeah, another thing that I really want to talk about was B-Rilla. B-Rilla is in these streets struggling. Marvin did bring up a good point where it was like, dig in deeper for the raps. I don't know, it's really funny, but dig in deeper for the rap, and that you're basically sounding like every other guy. I understand that, but here's my other thing with this. I don't know B-Rilla's technical skill. Maybe sometimes he could just give you potato, potato, tomato, tomato. While you have, I don't know, Shaquita and friends can go and talk about metaphors and narrations and they Kendrick Lamar type of bars where you have, the 15 videos that break down what every word of every sentence means and the metaphor behind that and how, oh, he's actually talking about slavery when he's talking about go get my gat. I don't know, but I do feel that I don't know B-Rilla if B-Rilla is capable of digging that deep. And that's not to say that he's a bad rapper. It's just that we all have different levels of which we're at. And I'm starting to wonder whether or not Lulu wants him to go deeper in his raps because that is what Famous did. Is he trying to create a Famous instead of just accepting B-Rilla as he is? So that is my whole thing. Because right now, technically, all we know is his mindset is on Famous. Everyone's mindset is on Famous right now. And he is going through all the feels. And he's going through with the sister situation. And Amon coming in and said, oh, Jess was here. I'm like, yes, you knew this from the very beginning. This is why I don't like, I'm going to phrase this a certain way. Because I understand that I'm going to phrase this wrong. I don't like certain women who are so clingy to men. It's annoying. Be your own person. Leave them alone. So that is kind of what my issue is with that. Another thing is that I found kind of interesting for this episode was the whole fact that we got what was it? the whole ending with Unique, obviously, and he's back. I thought that was a lovely callback to the previous seasons because they always talked about that ice cream. This is the butter pecan ice cream. What better way to reintroduce yourself than over some ice cream? And she's just like, what? I kind of wonder whether or not it was too early to reveal that he was alive to her. Because he was so much of I want everything to burn, and I want to get her back for everything, and she's not doing that yet. She hasn't lost everything. She's still trying to become the number one queen pen, king pen, all the pens of New York City and probably beyond. So I thought it was a little bit too early to reveal that. But I'm happy he's back, that he revealed it. I like that little montage of him getting all cleaned up and getting his little suits and things and his little chains. That was very nice. That was very cute. But it will be interesting to see how that dynamic works. Because when I spoke to him, he was like, "No, there's no turning back when it came to him and his character in terms of like we can work it out, we can be friends again." Like he genuinely wants to kill her, and he always wanted to kill her. It's just that now he doesn't have that logic side that is kind of the forefront of his brain. He's just reactionary. So I'm kind of wondering if he's going to start to slip up there when it comes to that. But overall, I thought it was a very exceptional episode. I really like the fact that, from the very beginning, it talked about how you keep watching people die, so you start losing a piece of yourself. So at the end of it all, you can't, you're not you anymore. And I think that's what we're starting to see when it comes to all the characters. Well, we're starting to see that Kanan lost his very best friend, and he's going to start reacting more in that kind of sociopathic way, and how that also trickles down to um, Jukebox as well. She's completely gone. I don't know who this Jukebox is. I like her, but I don't know who she is. And then I'm just kind of wondering again, and I still have to state this. I genuinely feel like the only people in this entire family that's going to make it out is going to be Jukebox and Kanan. I think that they're all going to either die or end up in jail. Lulu is acting, he stayed. And I think that was that final fork in the road, and he's not going to get any other chances to leave. He made his final decision to stay, and I think that is going to be his downfall, and that is going to be his death. I think when it comes to Marvin, you had that whole situation with the gun, so he might end up taking the rap for her and all the murders that's tied to that gun. She's going to end up in jail, and Raquel, I don't think she's going to make it. I don't think she's going to be able to walk away. I still don't know whether or not she's going to die or she's going to end up in jail. But I don't, that's, God bless, because she's not going to be the queen of anything except for like maybe the queen of Cell Block 1.
I want to ask a quick question. First and foremost, outstanding takeaways, Dana and Gary. I want to ask this important question before Gary continues. So now, do you guys want some butter pecan ice cream after seeing Unique have that at the end of the episode?
Butter pecan is the most disgusting ice cream ever. I don't know why y'all are like that. Like, ew.
Actually, I want to try it. I want to try the pecan ice cream because I never had anything like that. I also want some pecan pie. And
there you go.
Yeah, and some Big Red from down south. Some big red drink. So, if anybody knows about that and knows where I can get some, yeah, I want that. I want to try it. Shouts to Buc-ee's. But yeah, the ice cream, yeah, I would try it for sure. What about you, Dana? No? Oh, you don't like it?
Oh, it's disgusting. I don't like. Now, what I'm gonna say is gonna be like other people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's gross. That's disgusting." So we all have our levels of that's gross. That's disgusting. Give me some mint chocolate chip. I'm fine. Give me that. But if you give me butter pecan, I'm gonna physically fight you because that's just like putting pineapples on pizza. You're gross.
Oh, I forgot you're just like Tony because you're from New York and New Yorkers don't like pineapple on pizza, like because your
No,
pizza connoisseurs out there.
Tony doesn't like anything. Tony doesn't like air. Tony will complain about anything. Oh snap! I'm alive. Grr.
No, shouts to Tony. Shouts to Tony Polanco. But yeah, he's definitely vocal about not liking pineapple on pizza. I've had it. I it's not my first choice of pizza, but like I'll eat it though. So
Well, you
it is
will
what it
eat
is.
anything. Don't.
Oh, nice one. Nice joke. I'll clap for that one. But yeah, great takeaways, Dana. Uh, like I agree with what you said about B-Rilla. Like, obviously Lou is kind of touched by let me just put my phone on silent here. Yeah, Lou is touched by Famous's death to the point where he doesn't want to hear all that gangster stuff on the record and stuff like that. And B-Rilla has a dope flow, but his lyrics are just like violence upon violence and upon violence with no kind of depth to it. Um, and I think B-Rilla is incapable of putting more depth to it. Like he's incapable of putting out like a more conscious message. So I agree with that. Um, and I think he could fix that problem maybe just by getting some more artists, like working with the other artists as well. But go ahead, Dana.
And that's not his responsibility. That is not his responsibility to be metaphorical and deep and have this great message. And you can make it, kids. That's not his response. Just like if you look at today, and this is what a lot of people have the issue with when it comes to today's rap. You look at someone who is like, say, I don't know, Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B and Ice Spice or Sugi Kana to an Indiari or a Lauren Hill or a Little Kim. All of these people, you can deliver the same message, but deliver it very differently. That doesn't mean that you're bad. It means that you like what you like. If you like, for example, Ice Spice and Poopy in the Diaper, that's great. And that works for you. If you're someone who's like that conscious rapper of Lauren Hill, then that still works. It doesn't mean that one is worse than the other. It's about the audience that you attract. So if B Rilla is and I kill you with my gat, cool. That does not mean that what he is saying is that he didn't, what he's going through and what he experienced. And I think what's also, I just really quickly, and I'll shut up. What's interesting with this is they introduced the daughter. This is going to be his downfall because now we're getting personal. We introduced the daughter, we introduced the baby. I'm not the baby mama, but the mother of the child and his desperation because now he's going to go and rob, what was it, Lou? Not Lou. I forgot his name, but he's
The executive.
he's gonna rob the executive who, when we saw this episode, we was like, he's talking too much. He's talking too much. And he gave that whole monologue spiel about the Jewish people and why they are in the music industry. And I'm like, that's great. And when I spoke to B-Rilla, not B-Rilla, Party, who plays B-Rilla, he was like, he doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't care about the strife and the struggle. But when he had money, he said, his head said, ooh. So, and we all know, I don't think this is going to go very well. So I think Lulu is going to be without an artist because that white guy is definitely not going to give him another chance again. And who's to say that he won't even end up murdered? He could end up killing him, or his friend could end up killing the guy. So you have that situationship. And then now Lulu, I feel that this is going to be another failed attempt at music. So he's definitely going to go either, this could be a full blown suicide, or he could go into that street life again thing. I don't know. Or where's White Eminem? We just view Eminem. Where's the Eminem-ish version of the rap, the white guy that's supposed to happen? Can he get out of his depressing stupor to speak to this person? I don't know. I'm done.
Let me just say, I agree. It's not going to end well for those characters, but it will end well for me because I'm the getaway driver. So when stuff goes down, I'm out of there. So, but hey, I wish them well.
Oh yeah, Rich is gonna have more work because yeah, he's gonna have to get B-Rilla out of that rich exec's home like real quick. Like he's gonna have to get him out the crime zone. So yeah, Rich has got some work lined up. But yeah, this was actually going to be one of the questions I ask you guys. Like, what do you think the fallout is going to be of B-Rilla like pulling off this heist? And do you think that Lou might, try and get in the way, or is he going to find out about it? Or like, because I think this is going to affect Lou in some way. It's going to come back on him. Maybe when B-Rilla's doing the robbery, maybe somebody's at the house, and they find out it's B-Rilla. Maybe the exec's there and he sees him or something. Like, I think this is going to come back on Lou somehow. And I do think that Lou's story is going to end in some kind of tragic way. I don't think it's going to be a happy ending, because he is currently the brother that's kind of separated himself from the criminal life, and in power, that hardly ever goes right. I think somehow the streets are going to catch up to him, and he's trying to dabble with this street rapper, this gangster rap stuff, and I think it's going to come back on him. Even though he's made the moves to separate himself from all of that. So how do you see the fallout of this robbery, affecting Lou in the future? And I'll go to you first, Richard.
That is a phenomenal question, Gary. So my thoughts, personally, I agree with everything that Dana has said, as well as you. Well, what I think is going to end up happening is that obviously they're going to try to rob this exec. And very interesting how the guy asked him, so does he have security? He said, no, this guy is very cheap. He doesn't pay for security. That, I think, is going to be a sign that, yes, there probably is going to be some security there. But I'm going to take it a step further. I think that at the time when they try to do this, Amani is going to also be there, and she may get killed in the crossfire. So you have a situation where she can get taken out. And of course, B-Rilla and them, they will try to do what they can, but they deal with the security. Maybe they don't make it. And again, the thing is that Lou, one thing that the exec warned to Lou is that he said he has had a lot of issues with B-Rilla dealing with him. And I think we saw how when Lou was trying to talk and reason with B-Rilla, you felt they had a sense of understanding each other when they started to work together. But also at the same time, B-Rilla was still in Lou's apartment, still staying there, and there was a lot going on with that entire situation. But I personally think it is going to go south. Something could happen to B-Rilla. I definitely think it's going to be a tragic ending. But what I think is that if all those people do get taken out, like I suspect, they're going to look at Lou as a suspect. They're going to look at his past when he had the other record label and tie him to all of this, and he may end up going to jail. That's what I think could happen. I don't know if he's going to get killed, per se. Like I said last week on this show, I like Malcolm Mays as an actor. I do not want him to get the same fate he got in Snowfall, and I will say that over and over again. So hopefully he does go to jail. He doesn't but if he gets taken out, that'll be kind of rough to see. But it's not going to end well. That's just my guess as to what's going to happen, though.
Oh yeah, I agree. It will be sad to see him go out like he does on Snowfall. We did. He definitely needs some happy roles, like some happy ending roles in the future. So whatever he does after this, make sure he gets a happy ending, because he's definitely due that. But yeah, Dana, how do you see this going? Like, what do you think the fallout is going to be of B-Rilla trying to rob the exec?
He may not have any security, but I don't see him not having a gun. So I do see B-Rilla not making it out. He did a very strong job of making sure that we saw both his daughter and the woman of his child, who was saying, hey, we need something. This is your daughter. Take care of your kid. So I feel that that is what's going to end up happening. This is not going to end up a great story for B-Rilla, period. He's going to either, I'm more like, hey, die, but I do feel like he is definitely going to go back to prison. There. See, I'm morbid, so I'm more like die, as opposed to like prison. But then at the same time, if he does go back to prison, we could get a really great scene between him, the daughter, and the mother, and just like, hey, why you did this again? You ain't nothing. You'll never be nothing. And then the little kid, hi, daddy, and him like hysterical. So I'm here for the dramatics of it. So yeah, let's go for prison instead because death is like, but his friend definitely does die. I feel like throwaway character, he can die. I'm fine with that. So I definitely do see that happening. I do see that as a fallout that the executive, if he does live, absolutely, we're done. We're done with Lou. Lou is done. And that is going to be an even bigger blow to him as well because now he lost famous. He lost his job. He lost the, aspect of being that music executive. And I feel that the girl, what was her name? Jess, she's not an option anymore in terms of that. And we're good. He's gone. He might actually just kill himself at this time. Because it's not like, oh, you had that one little suicide attempt and then that's done and you no longer you feel better about yourself and that suicide, mentality doesn't leave you. So I think that's what's gonna happen. I think I like the fact that he ended up going to AA when Famous died and it showed he's still willing to try. But remember, he has a job now. He has something to go back to. He won't have that after this. So I kind of feel that we're gonna end up losing Lou that way. I'm very sad about that because the actor is amazing. But yeah, I don't see him making it at all.
Yeah, because we in this episode we saw him like at the bar and he's just staring at the drink. Now I think that it won't take much more to send him over the edge and actually take a sip of that drink. And if he were to lose, B-Rilla, as well as famous, he's already lost famous. But if he were to lose B-Rilla, whether B-Rilla dies or gets locked up again and he has no artist now, I think that it's going to send him pretty close to the edge of getting that drink. But then you also throw on top of that losing his mother. Yes, it's looking pretty dark for him. So I think there's a lot there that could trigger that alcoholism in him again. But go ahead, Richard. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I agree 100% with what both you and Dana said, and I do agree with what Dana said that if Lou goes to jail or whatever happens, once again that will add to the dynamic of making it a very tragic and bad result for Raquel because you saw in this season when in the episode where he confessed that he tried to commit suicide and then he had the conversation with her after, you saw how close it was, how important she is to him and vice versa. So again, by the end of the season, something I do feel as though Raquel might have a breakdown with all the stuff happening between the stuff with Joyce, the stuff with her business, and then if you see something happen to Marvin and Lou, all of that adds to the dynamic that this season could end very badly for Raquel. So yeah, I do think something bad happens to Lou. But I hope, like I said, he gets arrested. I don't want to see the character get killed, but I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. But something is going to happen because he doesn't know that B-Rilla is doing all this stuff behind his back. So it won't end well. That's a certain.
Yeah, I don't see it ending well for Lou, unfortunately. But let us know what you think in the comments, people, on that one. So going back to Raquel and Unique. So how do you really see things going, with these two? Because they kind of left us on a scene where it's like, okay, I wonder what happens next. Like what happens? I'm really curious how they're going to start that next episode. Like, do they start the scene at the house and they talk to each other, or has time passed when we get to the next episode? I really want to see how they do that. But yeah, how do you see things going with them? Like, do you see them maybe agreeing to coexist but secretly plotting against each other, or is it going to be like all out war or something? Is one of them going to make a severe move in the next episode and just kind of spark a deadly war of some sorts? Like, because Unique's kind of been gaining power. Like he went to those other guys to get help. Like, he got like a whole hit squad or something. And yeah, he has the mob on his side as well. He's with Quan now, basically. So, he's been making some moves and he's got some strength now. Like, he's got some strength in the game. And Raquel, she's kind of doing her thing, but her main hitter is Marvin. She doesn't. We haven't really seen her with a lot of other people, carrying out, drills for her. Basically, like she doesn't have a lot of muscle right now, so she might have to go out and get some more people if she's going to go to war with Unique. So, how do you really see this playing out, between these two? And don't forget, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of history with these characters. There's still the whole baby thing. With Raquel getting rid of Unique's child. There's that element in there as well. Unique obviously doesn't know. Um, and then there's the whole Unique thinking that she has something to do with him getting, beat up and killed or whatever. Um, so, how do you see this all playing out? And do you have time, Dana? Because I know you have to do something, but do you have time to answer real quick?
4:30.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. I honestly, genuinely don't know, and that is what I love about this show. I cannot pinpoint and say this will connect to this and this will connect to that. I don't know. I do see this as one of two things. Well, I see this more as one thing, but it's two things, but I'm going to leave with the one thing. I feel that what Unique is going to do is pretend. Hey, let's sit down. Let's have some ice cream. The nasty butter pecan ice cream. You go get a spoon. And they end up talking, and it's like, hey, I'm not a really like I'm sorry or I missed you kind of thing, but he's going to try to manipulate her. I feel that he has the upper hand now, where he can play those both sides. And I feel that while he is doing that, and like, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation, and this is what happened. And of course, leave out great detail, and then like, hey, I think you're really trying to kill me, and you took everything away from me, so I'm going to kill you too. Um, but I really feel that this is going to be that opportunity where he can get back into Raquel's life, get back into. You can even make the argument of Kanan a little bit and manipulate them into thinking that they have like an ally again. Oh, you need a what is it, distro, or whatever you call it, distributor, or you need some supplies, that kind of thing. I have a connect. More than meanwhile, he's setting her up. He's doing something that, is going to be completely against her back and take her by surprise, even more so than walking into her kitchen and eating the ice cream. The violation of someone just walking into your kitchen and eating your ice cream. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't see him being, oh, has some ice cream. He pulls out the gun and then it is a big shootout again. I don't see that at all. I see this as being, just a friendly-ish moment, but I don't think we all know Raquel's not dumb. So I do feel that she is going to have like in her back of her mind, what's going on? Why is he here? Something's not right. Something's kind of fishy. He manages to pop up and appear when I've lost everything. What really happened during it? Because they still never found out what really, really happened during the whole shootout of the different locations. It's what they thought. It was like, oh, it can't be this guy because he doesn't have that kind of mentality or he doesn't have that way of executing the plot out. So in the back of her mind, I think she may be thinking, oh, it might be him. I don't know. Let's see where this goes. What information I can get out from him. So that's what I think we're really going to get into, and that he is going to be able to kind of, like I stated, reintroduce himself back into what's going on. And then we're forgetting the whole part. We got to get rid of Stefano. Because remember, the other guy was like, I can't do it, but you can figure out how to do it. And we all know that Stefano dies because at least it really does. He dies. It seems like he dies. That trailer was like, it looked like he dies because we had that whole monologue that he gives about something in death, and I don't know. But it was like, oh, that final thing of like, I'm going to die monologue that you give. And Unique is basically on the case to kill him. So I think the way to get close to Stefano is to go back to Raquel. That's the only reason why he's standing in the kitchen eating that pecan ice cream, which is nasty. So there you
go. That's a big extent to go to eat some nasty ice cream to try and get to Stefano. That's a big thing. But yeah, that's a good point, though. I do think Unique he's definitely starting to play chess, and he's one step ahead of Raquel now. Because I was wondering for a minute there if Raquel was going to figure out that he is alive at some point, because she had that clue from Panessa that somebody left money in her mother's mailbox or whatever. So that was a big clue. So I thought, she might start to piece things together, but Unique went ahead and announced himself, and and I guess he had to make that move, because with the moves that he's making, sooner or later it's going to get back to her anyway. Like somebody's going to see him eventually. So he had to kind of out himself, because he's making some serious moves. Um, but yeah, I think that they'll be cordial. I do think that they need to have some kind of talk, and I hope that we get to see it. I hope that it's not an off-screen kind of thing, but they do need to have some serious talks about, oh, like, did you try and make a move against me and all this stuff? Like, they need to clear the air. But I do think that they're going to try and be cordial. I'm not sure on what drug Unique is selling. I know that Raquel is trying to sell heroin, like the dope at the moment, and maybe he's selling cocaine. So maybe they could, work something out, from that standpoint, because they're not kind of stepping on each other's toes. Maybe they'll divide up the territory and stuff like that as well. So, maybe they'll try and act like they're playing along, but I do think that they're going to be plotting against each other to kind of like both of them want to run Queens, basically. I think their ultimate goal is to kind of run Queens. Like, they want to be the head honcho, the main boss, the final boss of Queens. So I think that's their goal, and it's going to get messy between them. And then you have Kanan, who's also the wild card. He's a bit young at the moment. He's a bit young in the game. But he's definitely building up some influence. So eventually, I think, once he gets a bit older and his squad is a bit more tighter and stuff, he'll be, moving up the ladder. He might not be the head boss by the time Raising Kanan ends, because he's going to be too young, but he's going to be making some moves and climbing up the ladder also, and separating himself from Raquel. So, looking at the whole chessboard is very interesting right now. But yeah, I do think that we're going to see, a severe battle of wits with Unique and Raquel. But what do you think, Richard?
Wait. Was Dana going to say something else? Like Dana wanted to respond to what you were saying.
Go
I
ahead.
had a thought pop into my head, and it wasn't like directly a response to anything. It was more like, how you remember something, and it was like, CeeLo knows about the money, huh? So then I'm wondering, by him working with Unique, is Unique gonna then steal that money, and then try to turn the tables on Raquel and be like, look, it's your son the whole time. I don't know. There's a lot of things. It was just a random thought that popped in my head that I completely forgot about, and now I'm
Oh,
just wondering
OC?
about money.
You mean OC?
OC, I called him CeeLo.
Yeah, there's
But
that
yes,
there's that
OC.
element too. Yeah, because we know that OC is working with Unique. He's giving them information, and he followed Kanan to see where his stash of money is. So yeah, I do think that Unique is gonna make a
Wait,
move. Go ahead.
remember the trailer? Remember the trailer when Raquel was like, I can live with not being able. I can live with you not being able to trust me or something like that, but I have to trust my business partners. And the fact that he is stealing from Raquel, the fact that not CeeLo, OC knows that he is stealing the money, and that he has to be an informant to not Unique. I feel this is how we get that separation between mother and son. It's like, oh, I told you I can live with you not liking me or being around me or whatever because you're my son and we're going through this, but you're my business partner. And now I realize that I really, really can't trust you. And this is how we get the whole kick out of the house thing. And this is how he can also manipulate Kanan. as well to be like, I was on your side the whole time. Yeah, she threw me out too, or something like to that effect. I was dying and I was beaten up, and she, whatever it is, she left me for dead. That whole thing. So, yeah, okay, I'm done.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's definitely gonna cause a rift for sure. But go ahead, Richard.
Oh no, so I agree with a lot of thoughts that both you and both you and Dana said about how things are going to play out. It's a very interesting dynamic because once again, Dana made the very good point earlier that Raquel was warned. They said she was told there can't be no dead bodies. Very interesting that Unique was also told this by Mr. Russo, where he said that he didn't want him killing nobody. There could be no dead bodies. They have to change things up, in terms of how they approach the relationship. And the thing about it is that Raquel, maybe she doesn't know yet. Maybe she'll find out in the next episode. But when she finds out that Unique took out Andre, he's been the one doing all of this stuff. It's going to be very hard for her to not want to do something to Unique. So it is going to be a back and forth between those two characters. But to answer your question, Gary, about how what's going to happen in the next episode, what I do expect in the next episode, the very beginning of the episode, is going to be a conversation between Unique and Raquel, because again, the way they end the episode, that's like a cliffhanger, right? So when the episode comes back, I do anticipate that they're going to have a much more deeper conversation. He does know that Kanan has been stealing money. He's been skimming. He's going to tell Raquel this because Raquel doesn't know this yet. So yeah, what Dana said, I think that is going to impact their relationship even more because she can't trust Kanan now. And OC did mention that to Kanan as well when he said, "What are you gonna do when your mom's find out?" He said, "Well, she ain't controlling any of the books, so she ain't gonna find nothing out." So yeah, this is gonna be very interesting to see how this all comes together. So I do like the fact that it's a little unpredictable in terms of what you think is going to happen because again, Unique just can't take out Raquel and she can't just take him out. This is going to go on for quite some time. It does make me wonder if there'll be a resolution to this by the end of the season or if it's going to go into next season. I think it could very well go into next season, but I have no idea how they're going to play it. But what I will say is I do expect a lot of back and forth. I don't know if Unique is ever going to learn that she was pregnant with his kid. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction. I imagine it's going to be different. But what I do want to say, and this is important, right? They made mention. Now, Unique obviously looks like Unique, right? We have to remember this is not the same Unique in terms of that injury that he suffered, because I do think he's still going to have fits where he gets angry and he does stuff that he's just, very violent and reckless. That can still happen, because again, that scar is a reminder this is not the same Unique. So even though he looks different, he has the same clothes, this looks like the same character that we've known, this character is a lot more vicious now. So I do want to see if he's going to be able to control himself around Raquel and not try to destroy any more things that she has going on. That's why I say it makes me very interested to see what happens in the next episode, because they can go in so many different directions with how they deal with that relationship in overall. So we have to wait and see.
Can I just quickly say that I don't know how long this series is going to last in terms of seasons. I know that we have Origins that's coming up. And from logic standpoint, Kanan has to get involved eventually at some point when it comes to Origins. But my thing is, I would love to see for the next season that separation, where he's completely separated from Raquel and he's running things on his own. Because that is something that has to happen. And I think that we had, 4 seasons of that already? So come on now. He's starting to that whole independence thing now fully get thrown out there, and let's see what ends up happening. Which is why I go with my theory that Marvin ends up kicking Jukebox out of the house once, because that whole thing was a test. And he's like, I am genuinely afraid of you. And then she's like, well, I'm just you. And then he's like, well, I'm afraid of myself. And so that's what I feel it would be the best to happen.
I think you are 100% on the money, because the other thing is that when Raquel did visit Crystal in this episode, she told her that she had good news for Kanan. This entire time, Kanan has been waiting for Raquel to basically, become the one that's going to give him more business. And obviously, that she closed this deal with the supplier. So she does have that on her now. So yeah, when she finds out that Kanan's been stealing money, well then yeah, she can just decide, okay, I'm not going to tell him anything about this business. Let him fend for himself. And yeah, so I think you're 100% on the money where it's heading in that direction where Kanan and Jukebox are going to have to do their own thing going into next season. Because yeah, the trust is going to be lost between those two as far as working together, as far as Kanan working with his mom. So that makes 100% sense to me.
And there has to be consequences to his actions, because remember, we had from the very beginning when he killed Ronnie, the consequence then was him having to pay Ronnie's share also and interest to Snaps and Pops. And he was looking at, Mom, help me. Just like, nah, you did this by yourself. So he has to learn from his mistakes, and I think he has to eventually learn what happens when you start skimming money off of people, even if it is your mother. She has to treat him like she would any other person and separate herself from saying that is my son.
I agree 100%. Yep.
Yeah, I do think a divide is coming. Probably by the end of the season, Jukebox and Kanan will separate themselves. And if the theory is correct that either Raquel and Marvin did have something to do with Famous's death, that's going to be another serious motivator of them separating as well. So yeah, I do think that there is going to be a significant divide between them because it's been brewing for so long. And Kanan does need that. I agree with Dana. Kanan does need that separation. He does need to start developing and building his own thing, because we know that is what leads into, him meeting Breeze and him meeting Ghost and Tommy and all that stuff. So that does need to happen soon if Origins is coming, So yeah, I think the divide is coming, and maybe even some family deaths, are coming. Who knows? But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that. Speaking of family deaths, though, leading into the next question. So I think we all kind of, mentioned this already, but who in the family do you think is more likely to give in to Joyce's request at this point? Now, I think we all kind of mutually kind of agreed on Raquel. Raquel. And the reason why this has merit as well is in this episode, and I'll come to you in a sec, Dana. But the reason why this has some merit is because in this episode, was it this episode or the last one? Lou goes to see Joyce.
This episode.
Oh yeah, it was this episode. Yeah, so Lou goes to see Joyce, and she asks him the same thing she asked Marvin to do. And Lou's like, I can't do it, but not because of you, but because of what it will do to me, basically, was his response. But now Lou knows that, she asked Marvin to do it, right? Now, if, let's say, for example, if in the next episode, Raquel goes to see her and she asks Raquel to do it and Raquel does it, I think, Lou would instantly, let's say it's reported that she died in her sleep, basically, or something like that. I think Lou, in his head, he's going to be like, wait a minute. I know Marvin didn't do it, but did Raquel do it? In his head, he's probably going to be thinking that. And Marvin's going to be thinking the same, because, he doesn't know that Lou was asked, I don't think. But he's going to be thinking, if she passed away in her sleep, does that mean somebody did it? So, all of this is a good setup for some more drama to happen, I feel like. And we do have that scene in the trailer where Raquel is crying. So, I mean, that could be the moment she does it, perhaps, where, she gives her the morphine and then, watches her doze off and she's like, oh shit, what did I do? But what do you think? Do you think for sure that Raquel is going to be the one that does it? Because it seems like that's, they're setting up the fact that somebody is going to do it because they keep coming to this plot line, each episode now. So what do you think, Dana?
Okay, what I'm going to say is crazy. But here's the thing. She said that Marvin was not Marvin. Lulu was too weak. Raquel was too strong. Marvin said no. He ain't doing it. Period. What if? And this is to go back to the monologue. This is to go back to this episode's monologue where he was basically saying, "You see enough of your people die, pieces of you start dying too, and that keeps happening. You lose enough of yourself, you can't find you anymore." What if it's Kanan? Him and Kanan, the grandma and Kanan have a really strong bond together. And you can make the argument is because he never had to live with her. So therefore he never had to suffer the same abuse as his uncles and mom did. So that is why they're closer. And she always genuinely loves and cares for him and she never judged him. She would never judge him, I feel, for killing her, even though she would ask for it. And I feel that he would understand the kind of pain that she was in and that she doesn't want to be in that pain anymore. And he can kind of understand because he's still going through the death of Famous. So, in the midst of his pain and wanting to alleviate her pain, what happens if it is him? Him? What is a him? What happens if it's him that kills Grandma? Because also, when I interviewed Sharon Washington, who plays Joyce, she said it will shock you. She didn't say like somebody kills me. She just said that it might surprise you. So for me, I think it could maybe be Kanan. And the crying is just like she's dead, just in general. I feel maybe because in a way, it's a very complicated emotion that Raquel is going through with her and her mother. And there may be a part where it's like, yay, she's dead, and it's also I'm mourning my mother because it's still a very complicated feeling. But I just feel that Kanan doing it would have an even deeper impact. And if he was the one who did do it, it further drives Kanan and Raquel from each other. So we get that divide. And he also kept secrets from the family based on the grandmother's wishes, hence the cancer thing.
Yeah, yeah, and we see that he's in the past he's given her medicine, like he collected that medicine and all that stuff. So she trusts him to kind of do stuff like that, I guess. So she might ask him, you know. But Richard, what do you think?
Well, we know that Kanan killed his own son, Sean. So I don't think that's a far-fetched theory at all that he can be the one to take out Joyce. I do think it's between him and Raquel because we know that obviously Raquel still has some issues with her mom. Now, we don't know what other stuff they've gone through as a family. And I still think there's going to be a conversation that happens at some point before this season is over where they provide more information as to why they have so much tension as a mother and daughter. But I think what Dana said makes sense, a lot of sense for Kanan, because again, this entire season, he's been the one taking care of Joyce. It kept the secret, obviously, as her wishes up until a certain point of time. Then they had to tell the rest of the family. But he's been there, taking her to appointments and all this other stuff. So he kind of definitely, it would make sense for him to do that. But it also makes sense for Raquel to do it since she has so much disgust for her mom right now. So it's a very complicated relationship. I'm not sure which direction they're going to go to, but I do want to pose a question to the both of you as well as the listeners. Did any of you guys pick up on the scene where Marvin came back to visit? Like he was going to go and talk to Joyce and then he didn't go in there? And I thought that was interesting because I was thinking to myself, is he having second thoughts about doing it? But I was also thinking to myself, we know that Marvin's been through a lot this season. He hasn't really talked to anybody about what he's been going through as far as the pressure he's been under. So what exactly did he want to say to Joyce at that moment? Was he going there with the intent to honor her wish or just to confide and try to get advice on what he's dealing with? Because obviously at this point in the episode, he hadn't yet had the conversation with Jukebox when she tried to take his gun, but he did already talk to Jukebox when she didn't really have any remorse. She was cool with what happened with taking out Aaron, that guy in the previous episode. So it made me wonder as a viewer, why was he going back there to say what was he going to say to Joyce? So I'm just curious. What do you think was the point of that scene? Because you were talking earlier, Gary, about all of the clues in this episode about could Marvin have had something to do with Famous? I obviously it's just a lot happening. A lot of stuff that was said in this episode makes you wonder if Marvin has some regrets about something that he did that we don't know about as viewers. I'm not saying he did kill Famous. I'm just saying there's a reason why he went back to that house. And I'm just curious if you guys have any theories as to what was the reason why he went back there at that moment. Because they paid attention to that scene. You had the very ominous change of music when it showed him looking at where his mom was at, but he didn't go in there. So I think there's a reason for that. But I'm just curious what you guys think.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because there has to be a meaning behind every scene, and that was, it was such a it was a, I don't want to say weird scene, because it does make sense, given the predicament that they're in, but it's like, okay, what are you trying to tell us with this scene? It's like it makes you think that. Go ahead, Dana.
I think it was more of a like, let me just go in and check up on her, and the reason why he didn't do it was because he knew that how she would behave in her mouth. And there's only so much you're weak. I can't stand you. That the person can stand. So he just didn't want to be. He wouldn't want to deal with it. So that's why he just didn't go into the room, because he knew exactly what she was going to do and react and say. And he knew that she was very upset about the fact that he didn't kill her. And nobody wants to have that kind of weight on their conscience. Like it's very unfair. First, and it made a really good explanation. You wasn't in our lives when we were kids. You were terrible as a parent, probably physically and verbally and mentally abusive on top of that. And now you want us to put you out your misery and to kill you? No, you haven't earned that. Which is why I feel that would be a much better. It's terrible either way to ask someone to kill you, but that's why Kanan, I feel, will be that person that does do that.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being either Raquel or Kanan. Like, I think it 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 makes sense for both. If it's Raquel, though, I do want more insight into the issues that they really do have. So I hope that there's a bit of a build up if it is her, because like Richard said, I do want some more answers about the nature of their relationship and the things they've been through and stuff. But yeah, any more thoughts? Was you about to say something, Richard?
Oh no. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Any follow up on that, Dana? Or is that pretty much it? Okay. Um, yeah. Let me see my notes here. Yeah, I didn't really have any other questions. So, like, if there's anything else you guys wanted to, discuss, or any final thoughts you had, then feel free to bring it up now. So, Richard, was there anything else about this episode? Anything, any other scenes that stood out to you that you wanted to mention, or that you feel are relevant?
Well, no, I think we covered a lot of the main things for the episode. What I have more so is a question for you two, as well as the people that are the people who support the show. Who do you guys consider as the main suspects in Famous's death? Obviously, Freddie's gang, they ruled themselves out, and then you made the comment, and you made some interesting comments earlier about the crooked cop stuff, Gary. Although I don't really know if Howard, because there's a lot that happened in that time frame. But I'm just curious if either you or Dana have any other people who you think we should pay attention to as potential suspects. I do have one, but I want to go to you two first. So whoever wants to go first between you and Dana.
Well, I already said unique.
Yeah. Honestly, no, I don't have anyone else. I think if it wasn't Howard, it could be like another crooked cop or something that we haven't seen, or maybe even one that's been in plain sight. Who knows? Garcia, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Mm.
The Garcia, the way he was talking with Famous's mom, basically saying, yeah, you know, well, your son did bad things. You know, we're trying to really solve this case. And the way he was pushing up on Kanan earlier this season, trying to get information out of him, it makes me question, you know, because he hasn't really done his job yet in terms of he's supposed to be investigating this murder about what happened to Howard, and he hasn't really progressed in that storyline whatsoever. So that kind of makes me wonder what is going to happen with that character by the end of the season. I thought it was a possibility either he was involved in that or he knew somebody that did help to take out Famous. So I'm curious if they're going in that direction. When they mentioned the crooked cops, I kind of feel like, okay, that's a very interesting, very specific, you know, who they're saying. And the fact that now Kanan and Jukebox have to go to a barber shop and talk to somebody else to find answers, it makes you wonder who really did it. And I think what Dana made the point earlier about Jukebox deciding to become a detective, a cop, because she wants to weed out who is corrupt and who isn't. That's a good point as well. So I mean, that's just me thinking. But again, I could be overthinking, like you said earlier, Gary. I don't really know, but obviously they want us to think about who took out Famous because we didn't get an answer in this episode, and this is going to continue for quite some time. So I'm just curious what you guys thought, and I definitely want to hear what everybody thinks in terms of their comments about who they think did it. But no, continue.
No, I really I like your theory, Richard. I do like that because I do need to go back and see all of the Garcia scenes just to see exactly what he said. But he is acting a little funny style, in my opinion. And like you said, the commander told him to, you know, Batiste told him basically like you got to figure out what's going on, figure out, you know, the ties with Howard and the criminal organization. We're going to be kind of on the low, but I want you to go and figure it out. And he hasn't really made any major moves to do that. So it's like, was he working under Howard? Does he know something? Like, yeah, he is a little suspect. So I think that's a great theory you have there, Richard. But
We'll see.
Yeah, Dana, I think you wanted to say something.
No, that was it.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely chime in the comments if you're listening, because I think that's a solid prediction right there about Garcia. Some things definitely up with him, I think. So he could be behind Famous's murder, but the question is why though? Because I think even if it is someone like Garcia, I still think there could be some tie or connection leading back to Raquel. So you know that's what I'm interested in seeing. Like, what is the motivation? Why would he do this and stuff? Like, obviously, if Famous figured out he's dirty, maybe he wanted to cover his own tracks. But I just feel like Raquel had so many ties, you know, with Howard, with Andre and stuff like, and you know that federal case, that case that the task force was putting on her, like it just kind of went away. And Andre's explanation was very like, you know, matter of fact, like, oh yeah, it's gone away now. Like you don't need to worry about this anymore. So it's like I think there's something going on there. Like there's something going on behind the scenes there, is because it got wrapped up a little too neatly. So I think there's more at play. But go ahead, Richard. You were going to say something.
Oh no, that's pretty much that. No, I agree. I was just going to agree with what you said. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next. But looking forward to seeing where they go from here for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dana had to go to an interview. You know, she's got an interview to do, so she dipped out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this was a really good episode. Oh, she's back. I think. Hold on. Hello, Dana. Are you there? Um, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Dana, but yeah, I think this was a really good episode, very entertaining. Um, and I will stand by the fact that the plot has moved a bit slower this season, but I think that they're doing a good enough job with the writing of like the characters, the character development. I feel like that is shining enough to kind of carry the season, even though the story itself is moving at increments, like small increments and stuff like that. But yeah, fantastic episode, and I can't wait to see what happens in episode 7. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on it. I'm not sure if you're here, Dana, to give your final thoughts or not.
No, just
Speak
my
now or
final thought is that
oh,
is a really great series, and I really enjoyed this episode. I think it did a lot to move a lot of things forward, and I look forward to what's going to come. It's really unpredictable at this point because what is going on with Unique? I don't know. I think he is the complete wild card of this entire situation, Chip, and I don't think that we should sleep on the other person as well, the rapper, because he's a lot of things happening there.
hmm yeah, I want to see what's going on with B-Rilla in the next episode for sure. But yeah, so that is going to be it. We'll be back next week, I think next week, to recap episode 7. I know
Yeah.
Easter is coming up, so I'm assuming episode 7 is next week, and then they take a break after episode 7. But yeah, so everybody take care of yourselves. I look forward to all of the comments. I will be in there replying, and yeah, we'll see you next time.